All right, so there was a Bitcoin conference. I think it was maybe last week, last weekend. I don't remember the exact day, but Busta Rhymes, a famous rapper for anyone not aware, um, after watching the Bitcoin conference with Jack, Elon Musk, and Cathie Wood, I'm sold on Bitcoin, officially holding Bitcoin, looking into ETH next. So um, the Bitcoin space continues to grow, and the reason I always bring these things up too is that the the price has it's gone down. I think it definitely went below 50 from its all-time high, but I think it's down to about 40-45% below its all-time high. And the reason I bring this up is that there's really no reason at all for this. In fact, in my opinion, it should be in the hundreds of thousands right now. And here's the reason for that. If it was worth 80,000 Canadian at one point, we have what, two countries that have it as legal tender now. We have other countries that are in discussions with it. We have the amount of mining done in China has gone way down. Um, Several very prominent. I mean, we have what, like Ray Dalio, I think has came out. We have that billionaire in Mexico that's came out in support of it. We have people like Buster Rhymes. So the whole point is the like, let's just say that you had not looked at the price of Bitcoin over the last 4 or 5 months, right? And you, for whatever, it probably would be impossible to not come across a tweet mentioning the price or something. But let's just say hypothetically you didn't, and you were asked to guess what the price is right now. I would be guessing well into the hundreds of thousands, probably in that 100 to 150 range, because nothing has happened over the last, like I say, 3 months or whatever that is bearish, right? Now people argue that some of these things are bearish, like the whole China thing, but they complain about it on both ends, which is really makes no sense. And I've never actually had one of the Bitcoin skeptics actually make a coherent argument on this, because on one hand they say, oh, China, it's not good, it's mined in China because they don't use a lot of renewables. But on the other hand, the vast majority of the mining done, oh, I don't know what the exact amount is, but a lot of the mining is no longer, that was originally being done in China, is no longer being done in China, and yet nothing changes. Like, there's still, so in reality, I think that it's people that are going to be bearish no matter what, like Peter Schiff. It's like, no matter what happens, he's never going to admit he's wrong. Like, it could literally be adopted as literally every country's currency in the world, and the price could go to 100 million, and Peter Schiff would still not change his mind, right? And it's really, really sad too, because he's very knowledgeable and very credible when it comes to some other things, but it just destroys the guy's credibility that he just can't admit he's wrong on this stuff. Um, and this is the way too, that a lot of, basically for anything, but if you use Bitcoin as the example, the question you need to ask people that are bearish on this stuff is, okay, you're bearish about it. What would it take for you to acknowledge you're wrong about it, or consider buying or buying? If they don't have a very clear and concise answer to that question, I would dismiss them, right? And this is the reason I dismiss Peter Schiff, um, is that if you don't have a very clear and concise answer on that, you've clearly never actually thought things through. And if you've never actually thought things through, your opinion's meaningless in my mind, right? And they would say, oh, well, what would it take to make you bearish? It's like, that's a good question, but I mean the trend is very clearly in the opposite direction, so that's a very unlikely question. But what I would say is, I mean, all, like, if Michael Saylor announced tomorrow, yeah, we're selling it all off, and I mean, and they're doing it for, they don't believe it in anymore, or something along those lines, yeah, that would be a little bit bearish. I mean, a lot of the prominent people in the community being bearish, yeah, that would be bearish. Or I mean, the biggest thing too would be like a hack or something, like a legitimate hack, not one of these fake, you know what, the whole ransom thing. That was just you know completely made up, right? They didn't hack Bitcoin, right? Um, so those would be some things, but again, those things are all very unlikely, right? Very unlikely. And the reason I say that is that the trend is in a very clear opposite direction, in that there's more and more prominent people and prominent billionaires that are buying it. Basically, you see one super prominent person like every week or two being like, "Yeah, I'm into it," even more often, right? So that's the thing that I would point out when it comes to that. But what's going to happen going forward? Nobody knows for sure. But the one thing I do believe personally, like I say, you always got to do your own research. You know, don't trust anyone, no matter how knowledgeable they are, no matter how rich they are, no matter how what. You always want to do your own research, like I say, partially just for legal reasons too, and that if you buy something someone recommends and it goes way down, well, yeah, obviously you just got to cover your ass on that one. But again, in my opinion, um, it is selling at a massive discount right now. Like I think it's at least a absolute minimum 50% discount right now. I think it's upwards of 100% discount, maybe even more. It could be a 200% discount, to be quite honest, because I've seen a lot of the price targets for the end of this year being like 300,000, right? And we're 10 times off, upwards, almost 10 times off that, right? So I do think that we're going to see another bull run. When it is, I don't know. You would think that it would start to happen sooner rather than later. But what I think is happening right now is that you have a lot of these big institutional investors that are wanting to get into it. And what I think is happening is, number one, they wanted to get into it at a lower price, so they pushed a bunch of FUD when it came to China, and Elon Musk, I think, pushed it too, and that caused the price to go down. Which again, there's no reason for the price to go down, right? The FUD coming out of China, there's absolutely no reason for it. If anything, we should be bullish on that situation right now. And again, like, does the whole Tesla thing matter that much? Yeah, maybe it makes the price go down 2, 3, maybe 5%, but not 50, right? So there's no reason to be super bearish on it. But again, maybe 81,000 or 80,000 Canadian was a little bit too far ahead of itself. But at the very, okay, let's say it's 10% below that. Okay, we still should be around 70,000 Canadian. That's like 50 to 55 US, right? So we're still selling at a very clear discount, I believe. A lot of the altcoins too, I believe, are at a massive discount right now. The privacy coins, namely Monero, Pirate Chain, I think those are both massive discounts right now. If you can get Pirate Chain below $3 Canadian, I think that's an absolute steal. Monero below, it's like about 250 Canadian, I think that's an absolute steal. Cardano, Ethereum. Again, I'm kind of mixed on those because they are very centralized. Um, but I don't think either one of those is going away, simply because a lot of the DeFi and even a lot of cryptos themselves are built on the Ethereum blockchain. I think Cardano is more advanced, and it's already, I think, the third, maybe the fourth, maybe the fifth, depending on what Dogecoin does. It's already has a very high market cap, and probably isn't going away. Like ETH, very unlikely it's going away. I do think ETH will probably roughly keep track with Bitcoin going forward, but I think Bitcoin is a much safer hold, because if the government decides they want to regulate any crypto, Bitcoin is one of the hardest ones to regulate. Aside from like a Pirate Chain or a Monero, Bitcoin is probably the hardest one to regulate, simply because who do you go after? There's no individual you can go after like you can Hodgkinson, or I'm completely blanking on the Ethereum guy's name, um, or even XRP. They're being sued by the SEC right now. Not to mention too, I think Ethereum has like headquarters and stuff like that, right? So this is the problem with these other ones, is that if the government wanted to regulate them, they probably could, but you can't regulate Bitcoin because there's nobody, or there's no corporation, there's no individual you can go after to regulate, right? So it is impossible to regulate Bitcoin, which is why I'm still the most long term, the next 5, 10, 20 years, I'm still the most bullish on Bitcoin. Again, I know a lot of people in this space that, I'm in, is that, oh, Bitcoin can be tracked, right? Why would you want a surveillance coin? Well, does that matter that much? And not to mention too, why do you only need one? Like, pretty much everybody who's hardcore into the crypto space owns more than one crypto. So why why not, Bitcoin is the ultimate, store of value, in my opinion, simply because there's a fixed amount, right? And this is the problem with some of these other ones, is that, yeah, there may be a fixed amount, but they're nowhere near as prominent as the other ones, right? And this is the other problem too, with people who say, oh, well, this coin, the transaction fees are way lower than Bitcoin. Well, yeah, that could be true, but the coin has a $50 million market cap. Like, how are you going to convince tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people to adopt it? That is the problem. And this is the reason why, like it or not, for anyone who likes Bitcoin or not, it's not going away, right? It's not going away because it already is so well established that even if it is clearly inferior to other coins, it's already so well established that it's not going away. And if the price goes, like, basically, like, there is not one prominent crypto that did not sell off over the last 3 or 4 months. So anybody who says, "Oh yeah, this one's better than Bitcoin," well, it doesn't matter because the altcoins tend to follow the direction of Bitcoin. Now, they may go up more, but they may come down more too. I mean, you look at Pirate Chain, for example. It peaked at what, $20 Canadian roughly. It's at like $3 Canadian now, a little below. So that's what, a 7x drawdown. That's what, 5, 6 times more than what Bitcoin came down. So this is the other problem too, is that it's a lot harder to convince the average person to get into these coins because they're even more volatile than Bitcoin. Now, again, personally, I don't care, right? But that is the problem, is that if you think that your coin's better than Bitcoin, the only way that's going to happen is if you can convince more people to get into it than Bitcoin. And for the vast majority of them, I don't think that that's going to happen, right? The reason why I buy into the privacy coins is that it's a very good idea to have, to be able to send, I guess I got ahead of myself. It is a very good idea to be able to transact privately, right? That's a very good idea. Now, right, which is probably why those are my second and third favorite ones. The problem is that those are going to have to be maintained, and they're going to need more adoption too. They're going to need more adoption. Um, but again, personally, I still think Bitcoin number one, um, Pirate Chain, Monero numbers 2 and 3, Ethereum, Cardano. Those are the only coins that I am interested in. There are some other ones that I think are compelling, but there is anything other than those 5 coins. There's not a coin in existence in my mind that is clearly better in any way than any of those coins, right? If you want the privacy aspect of it, Pirate Chain, Monero got you covered. You want store of value and long-term growth potential. And again, the other thing too is that the Lightning Network is progressing too. For people that complain about Bitcoin transaction fees, the Lightning Network is progressing, and it's going to happen at some point. It is inevitable that we get a Lightning Network. So I think people that complain about Bitcoin transaction fees and Ethereum transaction fees, personally, I think that they're just a little bit idealistic, and not that that's a bad thing too. We should be striving for perfection, but again, like the comparison you always hear is that we are, late 90s internet, right? There was a ton of issues, right? Even 2000s internet, right? So I think we're still very early in the game. I think people just need to be patient, right? Give it 5, 10 years, and I think that we will have exactly what we want, right? I think that that's going to be what it is. And two, the other thing too, like I brought up, is that Why do you need now, in a perfect world, you would have one currency that can do everything, but why do you need it, right? Why can't you have Bitcoin as your store of value, right? And maybe you use it to transact here and there. You have some Pirate Chain and Monero for your private transactions you don't want the government being able to see. And then maybe you got Ethereum and Cardano for their aspects, right? What's wrong with that, right? What's wrong with that? Like, it's not that hard, right? And not to mention too, um, you do have atomic swaps on the way too, I think, right? And that you will be able to swap out cryptos without having to go through exchanges. That's another thing that's going to come out too. So for all the people that are complaining about a lot of these things, like I say, I think that they're just simply being too idealistic and they're expecting too much too soon, right? It would be like expecting high speed internet like 20 years ago. Like just give it some time. It's like how expecting 4K televisions like 10, 15 years ago. Like just give it some time, right? The space is going to progress. There is no reason in my mind to not believe that, right? So anyway, um, I know I rambled a little bit, so I'm going to leave it there. But anyway, like I say, if you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms. Again, you want to donate, you could do that as well. Um, it, Basically, like I say, just check out those links again. Any support would be very much appreciated. So like I say, check out those links and stay tuned for more.